Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Granblue Ghostie deck profile for Post Clan Selection Volume 1. This is the Granblue equivalent to Ghosties for standard format. We were given a good amount of Ghostie support in the Clan Selection Volume 1 booster set. Really awesome support as well. I know a good amount of friends that were big fans of the Ghosties, for Granblue being one of their favorites for the different deck archetypes they were given for the subclans. So I wanted to do an update to the Granblue deck with the focus being on the Ghostie monsters. Really awesome, focusing on these subclans just for all the different rearguard calling from the drop zone that this deck can do. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Ghostie Main Grade 3, we're running 4 Ghostie Leader Beatrice. On Vanguard or rear, when placed, you Soul Blast 1 and call a card not named Ghostie Leader Beatrice from your drop zone to the rear. So you're not even limited to Ghosties with her first monster ability, just being able to call anything aside from herself, just for the fact that it would just cause an indefinite loop, as long as you have the Soul for this card. And on Vanguard Circle, all of your units with Ghosties in their card names on your rear guard or guard circle get Intercept and plus 5,000 power in defense. This just adds an extra power shield on rear guard or the guard circle, and giving them Intercept, since we do run a good number of grade 1 Ghosties. Just being able to rely on this card for the additional power boost and Intercept just gives you more of a defensive playstyle depending on what Ghostie you may call, and sometimes you just don't have the grade 2 options to call onto the field also. And on Vanguard Circle, when your rear guard is retired by a card's ability during your turn, you can counterblast 1 and call a card with Ghostie in its card name and a grade less than the grade of the retired card from your drop zone to the rear guard. So it's basically like if a rear guard retires, you're calling out the spirit of a weaker ghost onto the field. It has to be a Ghostie, but a good majority of our cards in the deck are Ghostie monsters, so we're not really limited with that play at all. For the added backup to the grade 3s, we are running a higher grade 3 count. Also for the fact that it is a protect deck, and we do want to focus on the protect markers. So I'm running 4 Dragon Undead Skull Dragon from the hand. This card cannot be normal called. On Vanguard or Rearguard during your turn, this card gets plus 2,000 for each card in your drop zone. At the end of the battle that this card attacked, retire this unit. So with the retire power, you have your Ghostie Leader Beatrice on the Vanguard with your Skull Dragon, which you can call with just a Soul Blast thanks to Beatrice, since you're not limited to calling anything else aside from herself. You can attack with your Skull Dragon, and when a rear guard is retired, which is at the end of the battle attacks, you retire this card, and then you can just call out another grade 2 onto the field using the counterblast for Ghost Leader Beatrice. So very useful there for that playstyle. That's why you want to fully run Skull Dragon. It's just a very powerful card the more you set up your drop zone, and just for the fact that it plays into the main playstyle of Ghostie Leader Beatrice. With the last of the backups for the grade 3s just being 2 Witch Doctor of Treachery. With this one on Vanguard or rear, during your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, it gets plus 10,000 power. So just a good rear guard plus power as well. And from the drop zone, Counterblast 2, call this card to rear. If your Vanguard is grade 2 or greater and was not placed this turn, you may ride this card as stand instead. So with this card, it's just an option if you need the grade 3 ride from your drop zone onto the field if your Vanguard is grade 2 or greater. Just giving you more and more protect marker options if you need them into your hand or on the field to use. If you didn't want to run your Witch Doctor of Treachery, you can always try putting in the Ghostie Brothers. It's the grade 1, grade 3 searcher in the deck. I just didn't have any in the deck, but that can be an option to put in for just additional grade 3 search options if you didn't want to run Witch Doctor of Treachery. And that's it for the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s, I run 4 Jessie the Ghostie. This is one of the newest ones. From the drop zone, you can retire 2 rear guards not named Jessie the Ghostie and call this card to rear. And this ability may only be used by a card with this name once a turn. And on rear, when it attacks, this unit gets plus 5,000 until the end of that battle. And at the end of that battle, retire this unit. And if you did not countercharge from this ability of Jessie the Ghostie this turn, you countercharge. It makes it basically a once per turn because you're calling out new Jessies onto the field. So you have to basically retire this card regardless if it attacks, but you can only gain the counter charge once per turn. So remember that with this card. Having multiples of it is useful for the power boost, but you won't get the full use of the counter charge, which you will use up a good amount just saving units with your Ghostie Leader Beatrice altogether. And I also run 4 Greed Shade for the next grade 2 in the deck on Vanguard or Rear. During your turn, if your drop zone has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. And on Rear, when placed, discard a card from your hand, put 2 cards on the top of your deck into your drop zone, and return a card not named Greed Shade from your drop zone to your hand. More recycle power. We're going to play a pretty good number of cards. Even just being able to get our main grade 3 ride target with this card makes it a great setup early game for sure. Just for discarding, can also set up the drop zone as well and give us a better card to use by basically having more and more and a second hand for the drop zone altogether. And lastly, for the grade 2s, it comes down to player preference here, but the last grade 2 spot can be, mostly I want it to be Ben the Ghostie. I know this card is a promo, so it's a little more difficult for people to get access to. When put into the drop zone from the deck, you can Soul Blast 1 and call this unit to rear guard, so very, very useful just for the grade 2 setup. But like I said, I know it's a promo, so a little bit more difficult for people to get access to in the deck. So I have the Punching Frangul in the deck. It's a once per turn rear. Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 2, and call a card from your drop zone to rear. If you called Kicking Frangul, you countercharge 1 and soul charge 1. But this can be also Ruin Shade as an additional option for just more drop zone setup. But preferably, I do like Ben the Ghostie since it is just another Ghostie option and a grade 2 one at that when we retire this unit. And that is it for the grade 2s. Moving on now to the grade 1s. I run 4, Damien the Ghostie, another new one from the clan selection. On Vanguard or Rear, when placed from hand, search your deck for up to 1 card with Ghostie and its card name, put it into your drop zone, and shuffle your deck. And on Rear Guard, at the end of the battle attack, if you have a Vanguard with Ghostie and its card name, retire this unit. And if you did not countercharge from the ability of Damien the Ghostie this turn, countercharge 1. So with this, it's another once per turn, just like Jesse the Ghostie for the countercharge play, but more and more abilities for searching out Ghosties to use. When placed, you search your deck for up to 1 and put it into your drop zone. And another reason I prefer some of these other grade 1 Ghosties compared to the Ghostie Brothers and why I'm not running them, they have to be placed from hand, and a good part of the deck just gets called out from the drop zone to the rear with the use of Beatrice. So you won't get full use out of the Ghostie Brothers in the deck. But still, Damien, very, very good just for more and more setup of Ghosties in your drop zone to use. And I also run 4 of the Pat the Ghostie. I've been just surprised when going back at this deck how many different Ghosties we actually did get in standard format, stretched out through a bunch of different sets. From the drop zone, during the battle, your opponent's Vanguard attacked. If your drop zone has 10 or more cards, you may call this card to the guard circle. And when retired from the guard circle, you bind this card. So it makes it so you can't repeatedly use Pat the Ghostie, but still great because you can easily get that drop zone set up and then just have more and more cards to resource to protect yourself with the more Pat the Ghosties you have in the drop zone. It's a grade 1 with 4,000 power, but it makes up by having 15,000 shield altogether to, basically guard against a good number of attacks your opponent may have. And lastly, I also run 4 Norman the Ghostie, which is a rear guard. Retire this unit, put 2 cards on the top of your deck into your drop zone, and one of your other units gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. So it's just setup. More in the drop zone for you to call out with Beatrice, and then giving you plus power for one of your other units, which it says unit, so you're not limited to powering up your Vanguard as well. Using this card, it's just a preferred one, also being another Ghostie target, with a good majority of our drop zone being Ghostie target focused. If you didn't want to run additional numbers of some of the cards and you wanted to drop some of them down for the Ghostie Brothers, so you could take out the 2 Witch Doctor of Treachery, like I said before, and 1 copy of Norman and 1 copy of Pat for a full playset of the Ghostie Brothers to run for grade 3 options when searching, because you would definitely prefer not to run and ride Skull Dragon. You would prefer to ride into Ghostie Leader Beatrice. They do have both the protect markers, but it's just the preferred option being a more valid Vanguard ride target altogether. And that is it for the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. Sticking with Captain Nightkid, we didn't really get a Ghostie starter for, standard format, but this is also the older text. Just remember you get the Quick Shield and the draw power when wrote upon this card, and if your opponent's already at a grade 1. And for the trigger lineup, we're going with the 8 critical for the deck, so the 4 Night Spirit and also the 4 Rough Seas Banshee. For this lineup, I think the only trigger we have that's actually a Ghostie is our heal trigger, which I think is still quite cool altogether, just being another potential target to call out. And for the Sentinel, we're running 4 Gustion, just more guaranteed protection against our opponent's heavy plays, especially with good potential of them being very dangerous with Force 2 markers. And lastly, I run the 4 Rick the Ghostie. What's great about Rick the Ghostie is just more of the Ghostie call. When your rearguard is retired by a card's ability, you counter plus 1, call a card with Ghostie, its card name, with a grade less. So if you're one of your grade 1 retire, because you can just retire with Herman off of his own skill when it's retired, and then also have the power for Ghostie. If your Rick the Ghostie's in the drop zone, you can call it out into the field using your Beatrice for that setup. So just giving you options throughout all the different grades for all the different Ghosties is why you definitely want to run Rick the Ghostie as your heal trigger in this deck. You don't normally have any specifications for heals in the deck, but this is one scenario where you definitely want this heal over some of the other ones we have. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Definitely fun to look back at one of, I would say, my own favorite, sub-clans for Granblue, being Ghosties, with a different interesting take altogether for their main go-to unit. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.